All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Is that on? Is that on? Okay. Didn't sound like it. At this time, I'd like to call to order the specially scheduled meeting of the Meridian Planning and Zoning Commission on June 6th, and we'll begin with roll call.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
They're on.
The volume's not up.
Check, check. It's on. We're just not getting sound here.
Oh.
Check.
I think I'm not getting it either.
Check. Check, check. No, everything's unmuted. You can hear it here? Okay.
The speakers are not on out there.
Speakers are on.
We can just yell at you guys.
I'll just speak. Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Holland,
Here?
Commissioner Yearsley,
Here.
Commissioner Fitzgerald,
Here.
Commissioner Perot.
Here.
Absent are Commissioner Casanelli, Commissioner McCarville.
Casanelli, Commissioner Casanelli is here now.
I am so sorry.
I snuck in the back door.
I'm
The chair is here as well.
start over. Commissioner Holland,
Here.
Commissioner Yearsley,
Here.
Commissioner Fitzgerald,
Here.
Commissioner Perot,
Here.
Commissioner Casanelli,
Here.
Commissioner McCarville.
Here.
Absent is Commissioner Wilson.
All right. The first item on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda, and we do have one change. Item 3C will need to be vacated so we can allow for proper process, as the City Council needs to approve the MDA first before we have it on our consent agenda. So that will be the only change. With that known, can we get an adoption of the agenda?
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion that we adopt the consent agenda with the vacating item C.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to adopt the agenda, right?
Yes, sorry.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda, and we now have two items on the consent agenda. We have the approval of minutes of May 17th, 2018, Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, and the findings and facts and conclusion of law for the village at Meridian Apartments. Could I get a motion to accept the consent agenda as
It's amended.
amended?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to accept the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So at this time, I would like to briefly explain the public hearing process for this evening. We will open each item individually and then start with the staff report. The staff will report their findings regarding how the item adheres to our comprehensive plan and uniform development code with the staff's recommendations. After the staff has made their presentation, the applicant will come forward to present. Hello. Present their case for approval of their application and respond to any staff comments. The applicant will have 15 minutes to do so. After the applicant has finished, we will open to public testimony. There is a sign-up sheet and actually sign-up iPads in the back as you entered for anyone wishing to testify. Any person testifying will come forward and be allowed 3 minutes. If they are speaking for a larger group, like an HOA, and there's a show of hands to represent that group, they will be given up to 10 minutes. After all the testimony has been heard, the applicant will be given another 10 minutes to have the opportunity to come back and respond if they desire. After that, we will close the public hearing, and the commissioners will have the opportunity to discuss and hopefully be able to make a recommendation to City Council. So at this time, we'd like to open the public hearing for item H-2018-0043, Keep Subdivision. And we'll begin with the staff report.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the commission. So as you said, this is it's called Keep Subdivision. It's both for an annexation and zoning and for a preliminary plat. The site consists of approximately 60.55 acres of land, which is zoned RUT currently, located on the southwest corner of South Eagle and East Lake Hazel Roads. To the north are single-family residential properties in the Diamond Ridge Estate subdivision, which are zoned RUT in Ada County, and undeveloped residential properties zoned RUT also in Ada County. To the east is South Eagle Road and single-family residential properties, also zoned RUT in Ada County. To the south is one single-family residential property and undeveloped property zoned RUT in Ada County. And to the west is one single-family residential property zoned RUT in Ada County. This is annexation, so there's no current history with the city. The comprehensive plan future land use map designation is low-density residential. As I said, the applicant's requesting annexation and zoning. In this case, the annexation boundary is a little bit larger than the plat because we, on arterial roads, we annex in up to the midpoint on both of the roads just so that our boundaries match up. And anyway, it's a long story. So it's 60.55 acres, both of R2, and the R2 would be the residential property, and the LDS church would be zoned R8, as churches are not allowed in the R2 zoning designation, so the request is for R8 there. The applicant requests that the church, as I said, be zoned R8. The church entered into a consent to annex agreement back in 2006. With this annexation, they're making good on their commitment to annex the parcel into the city once the property was contiguous with city limits. The applicant proposes to develop 59 new single-family residential detached homes on a plat that is about 53.47 acres. It's 59 building lots, 10 common lots on both R2 and R8. The gross density for the subdivision is approximately 1.1 dwelling unit per acre. Lots range in size from 22,120 square feet to over 77,000 square feet, an average of about 31,600. The development on the site is required to comply with the dimension standards listed in the UDC for both R2 and R8 zoning districts. Staff has reviewed the proposed plat and found them to be in compliance. The plat is required to also comply with the block length standards listed in the UDC. Staff has reviewed the proposed plat, and in order to ensure compliance with the UDC, the applicant, in the staff report, says shall provide an emergency access to East Lake Hazel. The plat before you this evening is revised by the applicant, showing an emergency access as well as a sewer easement out to Lake Hazel to provide emergency access for fire. So they're complying with the block length standards in the UDC. But also, the UDC limits the length of a cul-de-sac. The original plat, I don't have that here on a slide, showed a full access road out to Lake Hazel Road. The Highway District, in their staff report, did not allow the applicant to have access directly to Lake Hazel Road. So with that elimination, our UDC limits the length of a cul-de-sac to 450 feet. We have a condition in the staff report that the applicant comply with that standard. I don't know exactly how far, but it's approximately 1,000 feet from the intersection here to the end of the cul-de-sac. So it's about double what we would allow for the length of a cul-de-sac to be. There is no way really to get around that standard, even with an emergency access or a pathway. The code allows for the block face to, that requirement to be mitigated by either a road connection or a pathway, but not the cul-de-sac standard. So we've conditioned the applicant to comply with that. Access is proposed via Lake Hazel Road. The applicant is proposing public roads throughout the development. The applicant's proposal for street sections does not appear to meet the requirements of the Highway District. So the original street section shown here on the plat with swales on the side. I believe this is modified from what was originally approved. This looks like it would meet ACHD's standards. The original proposal was something that the Highway District would not allow, which is why that was in the staff report. 35-foot landscape buffer is required along Lake Hazel, being considered an entryway corridor, and a 25-foot wide landscape buffer is required along Lake Hazel, or excuse me, along South Eagle. We've required that on the plat. And just to correct what I said earlier, the LDS Church, the applicant went through a property boundary adjustment. They purchased the back half of the LDS Church's property. As part of that, they did a property boundary adjustment, and that has not yet been finalized. So we have a condition in the staff report that says we're receive a final approval from the county showing that that property boundary adjustment has been finalized or that that lot be included in the subdivision. Moving forward with that, technically we require a 25-foot landscape buffer along the LDS church because it's being annexed in. I could show you an aerial photograph. We're not real concerned with either the width or the number of trees and vegetation there. The LDS church did a good job of vegetating their frontage, so there's not a real concern there. The applicant's also providing, as part of their open space, we allow parkways to count towards open space. As I said, they're providing 10% open space for the development. We have a section in the UDC that says if your minimum lot size is over 16,000 square feet, which theirs is, you're only required to provide 5% open space. They're also providing parkways internally. Their landscape plan does a good job of showing the number of trees and parkways they're providing. There's a few slides here to look at with the landscape plan, but they're so it would be a parkway strip and then the sidewalk. Most of these trees would be installed, once the homes are built, so there's no issues with construction. The plat reflects several pedestrian common lots that do not show the required landscaping. This is, don't believe I had enough time to put the revised landscape plan I received this afternoon from the applicant in the presentation here, but typically we require 5 feet of landscaping on either side of a pathway with trees, one tree every 35 feet, and a couple of the pathways didn't reflect that, so we'll have to verify that their revised landscape plan meets that standard. All amenities for the subdivision, the applicant all developments consisting of 5 acres or more are required to provide amenities, a minimum of 1 site amenity for the first 5 acres and then 1 for every additional 20 acres. With that, the applicant would be required to provide 4. As I said, 5% open space, an extra 5% counts as 1. They're providing a gazebo as well as bike storage, so they'd be required to provide 1 additional site amenity for the subdivision. Sidewalks are proposed along all the public streets. The applicant proposes to construct detached sidewalk throughout the development and along both South Eagle and East Lake Hazel roads. There is attached sidewalk that exists along the LDS church frontage. City staff is okay not replacing the existing sidewalk with detached sidewalk. The applicant has also provided some conceptual building elevations for the development. Those are here. Lastly, because some of the homes that will back up to East Lake Hazel or Eagle Roads, they'll be highly visible. Staff recommends that the rear or sides of those structures that face that particular road incorporate articulation through changes in material, color, modulation, and architectural elements. Those are things we'll review with the individual building permits when they come through. We received written testimony from Judy Lewis, who lives relatively close by. Staff is recommending approval with the conditions, and I'll stand for any questions you have.
Any questions for staff?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Casanelli?
Josh, I just want to clarify that the access that ACHD denied to Lake Hazel, but you are good with just having if there's an emergency access there, that's okay for breaking up the length of that cul-de-sac, is that correct?
No.
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 Okay.
So to clarify, there's 2 standards here. One is the block length. So if you look at from that northern cul-de-sac over to the 90-degree turn, a 90 breaks up the block for our definition. So you're just looking at the measurement between the end of the cul-de-sac and that 90-degree turn. That would be over I think it's a 600-foot limit, but if you have a pedestrian connection, you can go up to 1,000 feet. And so that gets them around the 1 block length issue. The cul-de-sac is a separate section of code that there's no getting around the 450-foot maximum length of a cul-de-sac. So the emergency access will help them both with fire's requirement that they're limited to 30 lots unless there's a secondary access for fire, as well as they're running their water utility through there to loop their water per Public Works' requirements. So it helps them with the block length standard, but not with the cul-de-sac requirement. Does that make sense?
So what else needs to be, what else are you requiring on that? I just want clarification.
I don't have a specific fix for them. I've spoken with the applicant and said that this is an issue and it might require a complete redesign of their project to make that work. We cannot approve that length of a cul-de-sac. Council can't approve that either. So before you tonight is a long subdivision that doesn't meet our standards.
Okay.
So we're recommending approval with the condition that they comply
Rework it.
with that standard.
Okay.
However they do that is really up to them to design.
Thank you.
And just, sorry, one thing to clarify with that is, originally we did not know that the access to Lake Hazel was not going to be allowed by the highway district, or I don't think we would have gotten to this point. That came to us with their staff report, about a week ago. We would have circled the wagons before now and come up with something else, but they're indicating that they will not allow an access point there. So that's why kind of we're in the position we are. If there was an access to Lake Hazel, the cul-de-sac would be under 450 feet based on their previous design.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Fitzgerald.
Josh, where is the gazebo and bike storage location going to be? 'Cause I can't see it on the landscape.
I believe it's on lot 5 of block 5 down
There in the-
where my kind of pointer is there.
Okay.
Applicant can clarify if I'm incorrect, but I believe that's the lot they're
And is there any, if they shifted that access to the west, there was no direction from ACHD that would be allowed either, right? It's just no.
So let me, and I can't speak for ACHD, but I can kind of
Yeah.
show you the site here. Maybe. Okay.
Because we're getting close to a neighborhood that lines up, I would guess, right across the street, right?
So this is the Eastridge Estates project
Yep.
that was approved last year, and their access is about here.
Okay.
But I'm gonna use my Google Earth. This is looking west, the intersection on the Lake Hazel. So there's quite a bit of topography as you're coming. It comes up to the top of a hill, then it goes back down. So there's I think, not knowing exactly what they're thinking, but there's some concern there that there's going to be limited visibility, especially with these driveways here, with the Eastridge Estates project, access point about kind of where my pointer is there. And it's going to be a 7-lane road eventually, so I think they're trying to
Makes sense. Thank you.
themselves in the foot and have it be a North Eagle road.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Yearsley.
since you're showing this photo, and I'll ask the applicant the same question, but that 40-foot emergency access appears to be on that steep slope, isn't it? Or is that
I believe it's
far enough
just
back
about
that
in
it's-
this location where I'm pointing here
Okay,
as well. The applicant will have to ensure that works for them,
okay.
the location. But you're right, there's fairly steep slope at that corner, both sides of that corner. And I'm gonna get to the intersection, and we can look the other way too, such that you can't even really see the LDS church back there because it's fairly steep here.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Casanelli.
Follow-up question, Josh. Did anyone ask ACHD if they would be amenable to a write-in, write-out?
Discussion with the applicant today, sent me an email, about half an hour, 4:30 or so, saying that he's reached out to them. They're looking at, you can ask the applicant this too. I'll actually let him speak on that. But I believe they've at least reached out to them to see if there's other options.
Okay.
So, Madam Chair,
Commissioner Yearsley.
one last question. Josh, I didn't have a chance to see the ACHD report, but did ACHD identify how they're going to, if they do a 7-lane section, how they're going to deal with that terrain different, are the differences in elevation between the upper portion, you know, where there's quite a bit of relief there that either someone's gonna have to put a retaining wall or cut that back quite a bit, and I didn't know if that was actually identified or talked about.
When I remember, no. We can like, absolutely look.
I believe we talked about a retaining wall
Okay.
being put there.
Okay.
And I'll let the applicant talk about that, but that was in the report.
Definitely look if you want me to do that while you move on or have other questions.
Any other questions for staff?
So it looks like the applicant's proposing a retaining wall there just on their
Okay.
corner. I don't know that there are specific plans from the highway district to do anything there yet. I don't think they've got this anywhere near their capital improvements plan, so
Okay,
that engineering would have been done yet.
all right, thank you.
Okay, so I think at this point, we'll let the applicant come forward. And please state your name and address for the record.
Commissioners, my name is Victor Villegas. My address is 141 East Carlton Avenue here in Meridian. I'm with the law offices of Borton Lakey representing the applicant today. Am I speaking loud enough? I can
Yeah,
never
you do need to
decide
stay
whether or
pretty
not.
close to that mic, though.
Is that better?
Yeah, 'cause otherwise
Okay.
they can't hear you back there.
So I'll probably start with the easy stuff, and we're going to get to the hard part, which is we're talking about the ACHD issue. But just to reiterate what staff was talking about, at least in terms of meeting the goals and policies of the comp plan, I'm just going to pick a few things out of the report. Your future land use map does designate this area as low-density residential, which typically is 3.3 units per acre. And what the applicant is proposing here is going to equate to 1.1 dwelling units per acre, well below the 3.3. We will be connecting to city services in this area, and we will be providing sidewalk and a generous portion of open space. So at least as to the area and the policies and the vision of what the city wants to see out there, we believe that we've provided a good product out there. To get to the more important issue that is probably taken up most of the staff's discussion with the commission, that is the access issue. We received ACHD staff report on Friday, so that caught us by surprise as well, as it did for staff. We asked for full access. They said no because of the district policy, and they're not very clear what it was, but we believe that it is due to the topography and the sight line. There was a question, I believe it may have come from Commissioner Fitzgerald, but whether we could move that access further to the west. That's the sightline issue. When I first looked at it, I thought, well, why don't we just kick it over this way and we'll get to the 1,200 feet? But that's the issue we're running into right now. So what we attempted to do after staff recommended the emergency access, we revised the preliminary plat to show the emergency access, and then we found out yesterday, okay, you meet the block face requirement, but now you don't meet the cul-de-sac requirement. So we're still working with ACHD. One of the things I do want to bring up is it was a staff recommendation. ACHD has not come out yet and said you can't have this access. One of the things that Commissioner Casanelli had raised was would ACHD consider a right in and right out? I've spoken to my group sitting behind me, and they were in contact with ACHD, and they at least indicated that that is a possibility. And that's all I could represent to you. We don't know anything beyond that, but I'm hopeful, I'm confident that we can work something out with ACHD once we bring up some of these additional concerns that was brought up to staff with Meridian City Code on this matter. Other than that, I don't see any other stumbling blocks that would cause a denial of this thing or something that we probably can't work out with ACHD at this time. I was going to move on to another point, but I'd like to stay on this ACHD point and answer any questions with what I've raised thus far.
I don't have any comments.
I think we've asked our questions, and I think everybody is kind of in agreement. We're kind of in limbo here until we get some more answers. So I don't know. Any other further questions?
Not on that.
I think until we get answers from ACHD and find out what your proposal is to make accommodations around those recommendations, we're kind of at a standstill here, so.
Okay. So the other item, just looking at the staff report that we'd asked the commissioners to consider removing on the site-specific conditions, there was a recommendation from staff that the applicant provide an additional micropath between lots 19 and 20 to the west boundary of the church parcel. We've been in contact with the church, and the church has requested they do not want that micropath leading out to the church. Their concerns typically are just the pedestrian traffic, vandalism, people walking onto the church property, and we're working with them on that. But that is a condition that the church had requested, and it's just something that staff's recommending on that. So we ask that that not be a requirement placed on the applicant. Can I answer any questions on that?
Madam Chair. Oh, Victor, you know what number that is, like 1 point?
Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me. Yes, that is 1.1.3 sub D
Thank you.
on exhibit B. Page 20, the staff report. Right?
Sorry, Commissioner Yearsley, didn't mean to cut you off.
I'll pull it up here so you can see what I'm talking about. Let me scroll down.
And Josh, was that lots 19 and 20 or 15 and 16?
The numbering might be a little different with the revised plat. I don't know.
Yeah.
But the intent was to have it between the.
Those two big lots right behind
Yeah,
the
I can
church.
go back. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're that curious, I can show you. In this, it looks like 15 and 16 now in this
Yeah.
iteration. So that was the idea was to have it go between those two lots.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Fitzgerald.
Josh, would you be amenable? I mean, I understand the reasoning for the church to not want to have people accessing their property. Are you amenable as staff for that? That removing that requirement?
Yeah, the idea was, again, this is just staff trying to. Josh, your mic is on. The idea was to just accommodate some of the traffic with the understanding that the majority of the people that, if they're LDS and live in that subdivision, they would be going to that chapel. So I'm not,
No heartburn.
die on my sword if the decide
Yeah.
you don't want to do that.
It was a convenience based on
Yep.
residents there may be a member of that church, but who knows?
I understand.
So
I
not
understand the
necessarily.
concern of pedestrians
Yeah.
going back there and all that
Yep.
stuff too. So
Okay, so we need to delete that one. Okay. Continue on, sorry.
No, thank you. Yeah, besides those two issues that I've addressed, we're amenable to what the staff, the site-specific conditions were for this project.
I did have another question then. What is your plan for the open space? I know you said a gazebo and a bike rack, but I think they require one more. Do you have a plan for that?
That might be someone else that can answer that question. I'm
Okay.
not certain. We can bring up the applicant and ask that question, Commissioner McCarville.
Okay. Mr. Yearsley?
Madam Chair, couple of quick questions. It was kind of hard to see on the landscape plan. As my understanding, we're providing sidewalk against Lake Hazel and Eagle Road along your property boundary. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And then, Josh, will you go to the landscaping plan? Keep going. Keep going. So this one here, showing that little pathway down to the corner, I think that's going down to the canal, correct? Where's that going to?
Commissioner Yearsley, I think the applicant can talk about this too, but one of our concerns was that the landscape plan doesn't match with the plat. I don't believe that pathway is meant to be where it's shown, because there's nothing along that pathway, and
Well, and that's,
there's no pathway there. There won't be a pathway there.
that was my question is what, that seemed like a pathway to nowhere. So that was what I was wondering, what are we actually putting a pathway along the canal or?
There is a pathway, but it's on the other side of the canal.
Okay.
And Commissioner Yearsley, my folks back there have indicated that is gone.
Okay.
Mr. Villegas, maybe we could have the applicant, your client, come up and give us some more information about the additional landscaping component.
Right, thank you.
Hey, good evening. My name is Jaron Langston, address 9563 West Harness Drive, Boise, Idaho, 83709. In respects to the additional amenity, it's most likely going to be a tot lot or playground for the children. Again, these are larger lots. The idea is majority of the people probably have parks in their own backyards, but we've decided to add an additional one. Again, we're neighbors with a new 75-acre regional park. So there'll be a plethora of parks, but we'll have another one as kind of the idea. That is not included on our new landscape plan that we've given to Josh. However, we'll make sure that that's met as part of the conditions of the application.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner?
So are you planning to put a retaining wall on that?
Yeah, there'll be two retaining walls. Yeah, we've worked with ACHD, and again, it's tricky just because they're in 2026 is when they anticipate to do that improvement. So they don't have a design. They've obviously taken a ton of right of way for that. So we're going to be basically pushing that hill back and creating retaining walls, and we'll have obviously a monument sign for the subdivision on that corner. But it'll be way outside of what any future development that ACHD is requiring.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions for the applicant? Okay. All right, thank you. And at this time, we'll take public testimony, and I believe Chris has a list of names there.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The only person indicating wishing to testify is Susan Carnes.
And please state your name and address for the record.
Susan Carnes. I reside at 5556 South Graphite Way in Meridian, and I'm here representing the Meridian Southern Rim Coalition, which you may recall is a coalition of representatives from neighborhoods in this part with several hundred members representing their interests, residents' interests in this part of South Meridian. First and foremost, I want to applaud these developers. They contacted the steering committee of the Meridian Southern Rim Coalition and asked to meet with us before they finalized their plans for this community. They picked our brain about amenities, about the street configuration, about the lot sizes, about the existing neighborhood identity and values along the Southern Rim, and proceeded accordingly. And we need more developers like that in Meridian, who before they invest in their engineering studies and their applications, try to create a partnership with the residents who already reside in that part of town. And so I want to put that on the record and thank them publicly. I want to give you feedback from our membership. Number one, there was overwhelming support for the large lots and this project's density. It meets a dearth of large lot inventory in Meridian, especially in South Meridian. There was some concern expressed by a few of our members that several lots are narrow and would create the appearance of higher density. There was strong appreciation for the cul-de-sac street configuration. The coalition would support a right-in, right-out entrance on Lake Hazel, and in fact, ACHD approved one for Boise Hunters Sky Mesa application recently for what we consider a more dangerous street configuration. There was strong support for the renderings and the entrance statement as drawn and presented to us, and strong approval of the keep as a future neighbor that would complement our vision and our existing neighborhoods along the Southern Rim. So therefore, I'm here this evening to express strong support on behalf of the Meridian Southern Rim Coalition.
Thank you.
Stand for questions?
I don't believe so. Thanks.
Thank you.
I think, Chris, you said that was the only person that indicated they wanted to testify, but is there anyone in the room who would like to? Certainly.
I tried to sign in.
Oh, please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Danny Cafferty, 3500 East Penny Lane, Meridian, Idaho.
Thank you.
83642. I own the property directly to the east of this parcel, about a quarter of a mile of rim. I am pleased to see that these folks are coming with sewer. I had spoken with them in the past, and I was opposed to them putting in 1 acre lots with septic tanks. I would like to know where the sewer access is, where it's going to be ran, if it's coming down Eagle Road. I would like to know the location of it, the size of it. The other thing I would like to finalize and make certain is that when that church was issued a building permit, it was stipulated that they agreed to hook up to wetline sewer when it became available, and I think that that should be a stipulation. I am not too thrilled living across the street from 3,000 people on a big septic tank and having a well. I don't know how much longer I'll live there, but I enjoy it. I have a absolutely wonderful view. I think these people are doing a very good job. I've been in the development business and the real estate business for about 45 years. You know, ACHD's got me really concerned about no access on Lake Hazel. If nothing else, I think because of the emergency vehicle situation, you need to put a knockdown gate of some sort or something in there, because it's pretty well known that you have to have alternate emergency vehicle access when you have subdivision in excess of a certain amount of lots, which this is. So I think that that's critical. The other thing, I don't mean to ramble, but Lake Hazel and Eagle Road intersection, I've spoken with ACHD numerous times about it. I've heard estimates from 3 to 5 lanes in each direction there. Lake Hazel is planned to be a major thoroughfare from Cuna Meridian Road over to Cole Road. And that intersection is going to be drastically changed. I've heard there's going to be cuts, and I've heard there's going to be elevation applied, fill. So I don't know what it's going to be. Nobody does at this stage. They haven't come out. But that is going to be a major thoroughfare eventually. Any questions?
I think Lake Hazel's what, planned for 7 now?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, would the applicant like to come back?
Want me to restate my name?
Sure.
Okay, Jaron Langston, 9563 West Harness Drive, Boise, Idaho, 83709. Thanks for the comments. Susan, thank you so much for being here, for your support. The gentleman who shared his testimony, thank you as well. We'll meet with you afterwards to identify where that sewer will be. It's coming up Eagle Road. We're grabbing it from
If you
basically.
can direct your comments to us.
Sorry, Century Farms. The sewer will come up south on Eagle Road and to the street. Again, I don't have the plat in front of me, but to our entrance street is where that will ultimately stop. So roughly, yeah. So basically to the center of that street where our current only entrance is. And when we spoke with ACHD, it's only going to be a 5-lane, 2 lanes with a center median between Locust Grove and Eagle Road. Beyond that, I couldn't speak to. Again, to maybe reiterate, we're not sure what that will look like. Maybe it will be 7, but they've only asked for right-of-way for a 5-lane.
Okay.
Does that answer the questions?
Do you know if the church is going to hook up to sewer during this process?
They are. Yeah, part of their development agreement was that they, when the time came and they were annexed, they would connect to sewer. Yep.
And your emergency access does include a knockdown?
Yeah, it
area?
will have ballards, yep. The fire department will have keys too.
All right. Any other questions for the applicant?
Just one question, Madam Chair.
Mr. Holland?
On the west side of the preliminary plat, you've got a street. Is that going to be stubbed to the property that's on the west side of it?
That is correct. Yeah, for future connectivity. Although that homeowner was adamant against it, but we told him we were required to because one day he'll die and the next person might want to develop your property. So we've provided connectivity.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Perot?
is there a plan to also put a stub street on the south side?
The south side is the far lateral, so there's a canal there. The
I
staff
thought I had read in the staff report that that was a request, but perhaps I didn't.
I was never notified of a request for a south stub street.
No? Okay, my apologies.
I mean, if they want to put one there and build a bridge, I'm not opposed to it, but that's the kind of the thought
I must
there
have
is
misread.
Yeah.
we're going to get other connectivity further south of that canal, so.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. So at this time, could I get a motion to close the public hearing for item H-2018-0043?
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to close the public hearing on item H-2018-0043. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I would have to agree in general. I think, we're all, every time we see the larger lots and quality homes being built, it seems like a no-brainer, but I'm questioning whether with the amount of moving parts that are involved in this, do we want to pass it along with all the requirements, or do you want to see it again?
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Yearsley?
given the issue with the entrance and the potential redesign, I don't know if I feel comfortable moving this forward at this point in time, especially if they have to do a redesign. The staff will have to do a reanalysis, and I don't think we're doing, my opinion, and we're doing our due diligence by just passing this on to council to let them deal with.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Fitzgerald?
No, I commend you guys. It's a great project. I think it'll be an easy slam dunk. We got to figure out what it's going to look like on that north side first. So it's our job to polish it up for the council before it gets there, and I don't think we're there yet.
I guess we should have left it open. I don't know how long. Josh, in your opinion, how long is this going to be ready by the 21st, or do we need to go out farther?
Some of it depends on motivation of the applicant to get things
Right.
turned around to us. So you might want to read.
Yeah, okay. At this time, could I get a motion to reopen the public hearing for H-2018-0043 in order to speak with the applicant on a continuance date?
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to reopen the public hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Would the applicant please come forward? So, given that, we do want to see this again before we send it on to city council. I don't think there's, you know, in general, we're in favor of it, but like the commissioner said, we want to see it laid out the way it's going to be before we push it, kick the can down the road. So what date do you feel comfortable that you would have this ready to give back to staff in order to, they'll need 10 days?
Yeah, so just
Okay.
to kind of, yes, 10 days is the minimum we need to review something.
Okay,
We've got a couple of options. June 21st is the next Planning and Zoning Commission.
right, but they would have to have stuff to you by tomorrow,
Correct.
so.
Next date is July 12th. So we don't have a first in July because it's
We
goofy.
changed it because of the holiday, so we've got the
Yep.
12th and the 19th, right? Or did we push that off to the 26th? 19th. Okay, so we have 2 weeks in a row there, July 12th and July 19th. If you'd like to.
Yeah, no,
Which,
my question would be, is there, is a 10-day minimum just for staff's time to review? My thought is I'd have to confer with my engineers, but I'm sure we could have, we have a meeting with ACHD tomorrow morning. So we potentially have an answer to the issue tomorrow, and I
Okay.
believe my engineers could redraft what that looks like and have that presented to staff by the end of business tomorrow. That'd be my preference. Again, we're trying to get to some dirt work before the winter comes, and so delaying 5 weeks is a pretty big deal to us.
Okay.
So if we can have the opportunity for the 21st of June, that'd be my preference. If we don't make that deadline, obviously the first one available in July would be our second option. So I'd like to have the option to try to produce something within 24 hours if I can.
okay. Are you good with that, Josh, since this is one that's pretty much,
Correct. So, I mean, the worst case scenario, they don't have anything for us within 10 days. It gets continued again.
Right.
But if he wants the option to be able to do that, I have no problem with that.
okay,
That's fair.
all right. Perfect, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Can I get a motion to close the public hearing for H-2018-0043?
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to close the public hearing on H-2018-0043. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Fitzgerald,
unless there's other further comments from our commissioners, I'll make a motion.
I think we're ready. Oh,
Okay.
Madam Chair, if it's being continued, it doesn't need to be closed.
okay. Make that in your motion that we're reopening and continuing.
Okay, I can do that.
Point of procedure. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I would move we reopen the public hearing and continue file number H-2018-0043 to the hearing date of June 21st to allow the applicant to bring us ACHD's recommendations for road rework and possible working
Redoing
out
the plat.
the plat before we make a final decision.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to continue item H-2018-0043. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Who would like to do the honors?
Madam Chair,
Oh,
just one additional item. The July 12th hearing date that we scheduled, the city council has the room until 5, and they actually have the chairs all out for other things. So it's been recommended by the city clerk's office that we begin that meeting at 6:30 p.m. I wanted to get the feeling from commissioners, if that's okay.
Works for me.
that's fine.
Good.
Thank you.
Anybody want to leave?
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Fitzgerald.
I move we adjourn for the evening.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to adjourn the meeting for June 6th. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.